Yellowstone Volcano and how geyser burst into life as USGS records 111 earthquakes this past month. This is the monthly update by the geologist in charge of Yellowstone, Dr. Mike Poland, and he informs us of the latest Steamboat Geyser bursting, monthly update activity on the park, Yellowstone bursting, that is erupting. Yellowstone caldera, as we know, is a supervolcano under the northwest part of Wyoming, stretching into Montana and Idaho. And if you see the video, a couple of videos back, we talk about the recent Utah and Idaho earthquakes and the fact that there's a mantle plume there going from Baja straight into Utah, into Yellowstone, and then turning west through Idaho. It makes like a big seven. It's like a big seven. The top of the seven is from Idaho to Yellowstone, and then it dips down through Utah and into Baja. So that's a mantle plume with the origin through Baja. And that's why, logically, the pressure from the 5.7 Salt Lake City, Utah quake a few days later on the night of March 31st to April 1st gave us a 6.5 earthquake and swarms are still ongoing in just northeast of Boise, Idaho, in Craters of the Moon area. Now, he did explain that it does not affect Yellowstone as far as an eruption is concerned, but it can affect potential geyser activity, hydrothermal activity, the water systems, the plumbing underneath, having to do with the water, giving rise to the giving activity to the geysers. We know that Yellowstone has over 60% of the world's geysers and over 10,000 hydrothermal areas, small and big. Now, of course, the most well-known is Old Faithful and in the Upper Geyser Basin. And recently we've had a lot of activity since March of 2018 from Steamboat Geyser in the Norris Geyser Basin. And this is what we're talking about now, the Norris Geyser Basin, Steamboat Geyser. And now Yellowstone, we know that it last erupted with three major super eruptions, 2.1 million years ago, 1.3 million years ago, and 640,000 years ago. Those were three super eruptions, and then it had a lava eruption 70,000 years ago, and another 80 eruptions since that 70,000 year ago lava eruption. Now, Mike Poland gave us an update on his monthly update for March. He said the University of Utah seismograph stations, which is responsible for the operation and the maintenance of the Yellowstone seismic network, recorded 111 earthquakes in the region of Yellowstone during the month of March. He said the largest event of the month was a magnitude 3.1 March 31st, just to the west of the park boundary to the east side of Hebgen Lake. Now we remember March 31st, what happened. The night of March 31st was a 6.5 magnitude in Craters of the Moon area. And that's where we're having the Idaho earthquakes even today, the swarms. They are getting less, but we had a 3.6, and that was the biggest of the swarm today. And then with 3.3, 3.2, we had a couple of threes. There were about 10 quakes, if you see the two videos before this one. He says, so there were also two swarms in Yellowstone during the month. The first was a small swarm of 15 earthquakes that occurred between March 5th and March 14. The largest event of this swarm was a magnitude 1.7, another swarm of 19 events, the largest being a magnitude 2.1 that occurred between March 21st and 29th. So the 29th was a swarm. Logical, because as we said, we have the mantle plume making a shape of a seven from Idaho to Yellowstone, and from there it dips down into Utah. He goes on to explain this sort of swarm seismicity, and the overall number of earthquakes in the region is pretty normal. And Dr. Poland went on to provide details on each part of the park, and starting with east side of Yellowstone. He said, turning now to deformation, This is a plot of GPS vertical component of motion at White Lake GPS station, which is located at the Sour Creek Resurgent on the east side of the caldera. Each data point gives 1 day of data, and the plot spans 2 years. And this downward trend, he says, is showing subsidence of the site over that period by about a few centimeters every year. There are some little fluctuations in that, but the overall trend is subsiding. It's going down. Now, we did look at some GPS deformation around that area, and we looked at Hebgen Lake. That's inflating. That is inflating. And it's also, I have my notes here. Let me take a look at them. Okay, Hebgen Lake is inflating, and it's also moving southwest, whereas around the caldera of Yellowstone Lake, it is moving southwest as well, but it is deflating, subsidence. Okay, so now moving to, he says this has been going on since 2015, so the caldera subsidence is continuing. And moving to the Norris area, where we have the Steamboat Geyser, just north of the caldera, that had actually been uplifting between 2015 and 18, and you can see the tail end of that through mid-2018, but at late 2018 things stopped and calmed down through much of 2019. There has not been a whole lot of up or down motion since the beginning of 2020, he said. Dr. Poland revealed most of the activity occurred at Steamboat Geyser, and he said, let's take a look at Steamboat, everyone's favorite geyser. Steamboat had 3 water eruptions during the month of March. This is the temperature record of the outflow channel. The spike there is the eruption that occurred March 6. There's another right here, March 15, finally last month on March 24th, the last of the month. And these variations are normal air temperature variations. You could see increased level of minor activity prior to each major eruption. We will start another cycle soon and would expect to see another major eruption at Steamboat by following the pattern that has been established over the last couple of years now, he said. And he says, remember, Steamboat burst back into life March 2018. That's when Steamboat Geyser entered a much more active period with 80 eruptions recorded between March 15, 2018 and December 26, 2019, 80 eruptions. 80 eruptions of the geyser. In 2018, there were 32 eruptions and 42 in 2019, breaking the 1964's record of 29 eruptions in a year twice. However, USGS says there is no reason to fear a release a statement last year. He said Steamboat Geyser in the Norris Geyser Basin appears to be entering a phase of more frequent water eruptions, just like it did in the 60s and early 80s. And he says even though these eruptions do not have any implications for future volcanic activity at Yellowstone, there are speculations, and many people had a chance to see Steamboat in eruption during the summer of 2018 and in the summer of 2019 as well. So nothing to be worried about. This is normal activity, and he did say that because of the nearby earthquakes in Utah and Salt Lake, there could be possibilities that the hydrothermal system of the park of the Yellowstone supervolcano area could change to even little fissures, little fizzles and mud pots becoming geysers if that takes place. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.